There's a background noise in your thing. Hey.
Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to another edition of the 10x Developer Podcast. I mean, last week was exciting. We had Harris here last week Wednesday. We had Harry Krishna. Yeah, Harry. He was here. We talked about spec-driven development and a lot of other exciting stuffs. And then we made this 2026 predictions on AI. Let's right, and it was very interesting session. So if you've not seen
Yeah.
last week episode, I think you should go to our YouTube page and then watch that episode. It is very interesting, very educative, and also at the same time very practical. All right, so today is another new week, and a lot of interesting things have happened since the last time we did an episode like this. Right, so
Right.
the topic of today says GPT 5.2 and Devstral 2, right? So we'll be getting into it, and I think we should start with GPT 5.2.
Do you want to cover that story? I know we both have that.
Yeah, we both have that. I think we can both get on it. So so OpenAI, they launched this latest flagship model called GPT 5.2, right? So I think I have access to it. I'm already using it. I
Yeah.
obviously haven't tested it to see the difference, but then they are saying that this model is very, very good in mathematics and is very, very good in mathematics and critical reasoning, solving like complex stuff. And then they obviously on their website, when they did their benchmark, they benchmarked it against these particular things, critical reasoning and then mathematics, right? So
Yeah.
and then some people have been saying over the internet that this is a response to Gemini what again? Gemini 3. This is a response to Gemini 3, right? So
Yeah, I think there was an email sent out. That's what I read in the news. Sam
yeah.
Altman sort of issued a code red because they've been obviously seeing that Gemini is climbing charts in terms of adoption and people switching.
Mm.
So they feel the heat, which is sort of interesting because 3 years back it was reverse, where ChatGPT was out and Google was in code red.
Yeah.
So in 3 years, the things have flipped. So I mean, I'd be wrong. I mean, we talked about Google a lot. What is Google doing? And
Yeah.
I'll be the first one to admit that I was completely wrong. It takes time to steer a big ship, right?
Yeah.
But I think Google is on track to I mean, Google is doing really, really good in all the charts and all the adoption. I mean, and not only of a chat GPT, I mean, we'll talk about that too later in news. So Microsoft is also feeling the heat. So
Yeah. Everybody's feeling the heat. And then I mean, recently I've been seeing people saying, "Oh, I'm canceling my ChatGPT subscription. I'm going full Gemini." I mean, I saw it about 4 or 5 tweets, and these are like top founders here in Nigeria, and they are saying, "Oh, we're canceling
yeah,
ChatGPT
yeah.
subscription. We're going Gemini."
I think the numbers is sort of misleading. I know ChatGPT has a huge. I think the one of the code red reason was. I mean, yeah, I'm looking at this for the first time, and it could be some people are saying that it's normal during the tail end of the year, but their engagement numbers for the first time actually has gone down for ChatGPT. Their growth
Oh,
numbers. Yeah, the daily usage number actually has gone down. And that could be the trigger for them to switch to code red that, hey, something fundamental is changing now. We gotta get our shit together. You know what I mean? Um,
yeah,
so that could be one thing. Another thing, I think that ChatGPT has a huge problem of lots of free users. I mean, I
yeah,
pay for it, but I know lots of people don't because they have a very decent, I mean, very reasonable free usage limit, right? So
yeah,
there is lots of usage, but that directly doesn't translate to revenue for them, which is obviously another thing. Because what they're doing is that GPT 5.2 has this thinking mode, right? Which is really good. I mean, I switched to GPT 5.2. I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty impressed with the results. There could be a couple of things also. I changed the system prompt a little bit. I have a really secretive, nice system prompt now. But but this all thing costs money. So
Yeah.
running reasoning power is not cheap. So obviously they are burning huge cash on infrastructure. They're trying to raise $1.4 trillion or something. So they gotta quickly figure it out how to translate this into new enterprise deals or revenue streams, something along those lines.
Yeah. I think revenue is going to be sort of an issue for OpenAI because I mean they are running costs. The cost of running OpenAI, the cost of keeping, the model up is
It's not cheap.
outrageous. And,
It's not
and
cheap. Yeah.
yeah,
It's,
so
yeah, especially when you think about how Google is sort of gaining the market capture and Anthropic also doing reasonably well. I'm sure they're feeling the pressure.
yeah. So I mean on the screen is where we have like the benchmark. Again, they benchmarked it against themselves, which is
Mm,
interesting because normally they would normally put against other models, but then they benchmarked it against themselves, and then just trying to show you that GPT 5.2 is way better, is an improvement from GPT 5.1 in terms of
mm,
thinking.
mhm.
So and then I'm seeing something like SWE benchmark verified is 80%, while GPT 5.1 is 76%. Then Frontier Maths, tier 1 to 3, this is 40% GPT 5.2, while GPT 5.1 have about just 31%, right? So, I mean, this is an obvious improvement. I can even see the ARC AGI2 verified is having 52%, which is a huge jump from GPT 5.1, which have just about 17.6%. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
they're thinking mode is really doing good. So one interesting thing about this, though, right? This is they haven't released any new sort of vision model, even though you know how this Nano Banana Pro is really doing good. I mean, they got a viral success. So
yeah,
what I see in my notes is that they're planning to. So GPT 5.2 is like the normal, right? I mean, there's not a new image model, or there is not no new sort of Sora or image model to compete with Nano Banana. But apparently that's in the plan, so they might be releasing another model in January.
yeah. I mean, Nano Banana really gave Gemini a lot of boosts. I mean, and the
Yeah,
whole image generation thing, it really gave them like a
yeah,
lot of bounce. So people paid attention. People started using it to see that, oh, okay. Apart
yeah,
from this image, this guy can also do other stuff.
yeah.
All right. So talking about GPT, I have another news here from ChatGPT. That's OpenAI, which is saying that OpenAI has announced a 3-year major partnership deal with Disney World, right? Disney. So Disney is investing $1 billion in OpenAI, and they are also giving license of over 200 Disney arts and characters to OpenAI. So which means that Sora can now be able to generate short
In-
videos using open
Interesting.
Disney characters, right? So also um what's it called? Disney is trying to create like a platform where people can come in and prompt and they can be able to create short clips of their favorite character. So you can create short clips of Dora the Explorer or something, your favorite character, just create and a short clip of that character.
Mm.
So this partnership is sort of going to help Disney to achieve that because, of course, they're going to use OpenAI. Meanwhile, OpenAI can now be able to generate videos using Disney characters on, ChatGPT.
That's interesting. And one thing if you have to give these guys, man, if Sam knows how to create partnerships. I mean, OpenAI is probably partnered with all the major companies out there.
Yeah,
It's just crazy how they do
yeah,
it. Very impressive.
yeah.
He's,
Now,
he's
now
a
that
good
you
businessman.
mentioned that,
Mm.
now that you mentioned that, maybe I should go to my story 3. Sorry, that.
Yeah, yeah, go for it.
But I mean, all these things are all connected to OpenAI, right? So that
Mm-hmm,
is why I'm kind of like
hmm.
mentioning it. So, um, OpenAI, Anthropic, Block, these are the 3 main guys, right? They have partnered with all the other big guys, all the other big players in the industry, in the AI space, like Google, AWS, Microsoft, Cloudflare, Bloomberg, Cisco. Cisco is actually like a major member of this particular group. So they founded what they call the Agentic AI Foundation, right?
Okay.
So this agentic AI foundation is supposed to be like Linux Foundation, where you have Linux Foundation, where it's like an open source foundation where, I mean, that's where Roots, if you can remember Roots, works, that she still works with them. And then, we have GitHub, Copilot, Kubernetes, all the other stuff under Linux Foundation, right? Now, this is sort of like Linux Foundation, but for AI. So they called it AI, they called it Agentic AI Foundation. So the idea is for them to standardize most of the um, most of the processes in open AI, in AI space, and to make sure that everybody can be able to plug into everybody. Sort of like Type C for AI. The way you have Type C, iPhone is moving to Type C, Androids are all on Type C. Sort of like standardizing most of these things. And then in this partnership, some of these guys came with what's it called? They came with their own products that they built that is open source. For example, ChatGPT came with agent.md. Also, what's the other guy's name? Anthropic came with MCP, right? So
Yeah.
these are all models that can help like this thing. And then Block, which is a company by Jack, Jack, the guy that created Twitter. So he has his own AI company. They have Goose. Is it Goose or Mongoose? One of it. They have Goose. This they are, sort of like vibe coding to AI
That's
tool
true.
for
Goose,
developers.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Goose. Yeah. So Goose
But
came in with.
MCP went to Linux Foundation though, isn't it? I think.
So this is still under Linux Foundation.
Oh, okay.
So Linux Foundation is still the guy handling all these things,
Okay,
right?
I
So it's
see.
still under Linux
Yes.
Foundation. Yeah. So it's like a new foundation under the
Oh,
foundation.
so they're kind of bringing all the AI initiatives
Yeah,
together.
bringing all the AI initiatives together just to make sure that everybody is on the same and
But I
everybody
mean,
can talk
it's
to
good
everybody.
for the
Not
industry,
build.
right? I mean,
Yeah,
having
very
open
good.
standard
Very
will
good.
help. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, so we're going to talk about. Let's move to Europe here. We're going to talk about Mistral now. Mistral is a French AI company. It's one of the big one, I think, in Europe. One thing you have to give to these guys is obviously they're very pro open source. They've been making lots of interesting stuff in open source. Now their open source models are probably top of the chart. So Mistral just dropped two punch combo for developers. Now this is an interesting story. Okay, so they've been so far known as a model company, like a model provider, right? And their models are Mistral, so they have a various sizes of model, but they released two new code focus models, called Devstral 2 and Devstral Small 2. Now, the difference is that Devstral Small 2 is completely open source. This is pure Apache 2 license, the gold standard. So you should be able to use sort of Code Llama and you could use Llama just to essentially download that and use it locally, everything. So Devstral Small 2 is, what is it? Devstral Small 2 is like 24 billion parameters. So this is designed to run on single GPU and CPU. So if you want to run everything locally within a laptop, you could be able to do that. The other model they have released, which is Devstral 2, which is 123 billion parameter, which is massive with 256K token, all that stuff, is sort of free to use, but they have a modified license. This is why things gets really, really interesting. So that's why anytime you download software, guys, from GitHub or anything, you feel like, oh, it's on GitHub, it's free, I should be able to use it. Make sure you always read the license, guys. The software licensing is becoming more complicated. More things are getting added. It's really, really confusing. So it's free till you start to make money. So if you're a company globally making sort of 20 million or plus revenue, you cannot use this Devstral 2 for free. You have to sort of buy that license from them. Okay, but Small is like Apache 2 free and all that. What's interesting about this release is that they've been releasing models like this. So Devstral 2 has been doing pretty good, which is like 72.2 in SWE benchmark. I think this is very close to where Claude Opus is right now. So, which tells you that this is a solid model. And I started playing with it though. I mean, the experience so far has been really, really good. I'm not sure I'm necessarily going to switch to this, but the experience I found is really good. Now, what's interesting in that they started to move now building sort of coding tools. So along with that, they've released something called Vibe CLI. Okay, this is sort of almost like Claude Code that runs on your terminal that connects to this Devstral 2, or you can connect to your own local model and start using it from the console. So
Yeah,
this gives you, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was just trying to, I was looking at it like Vibe code, but on the CLI, eh, because
Yes,
I was
it's
trying to
mainly
understand the
mainly
new
for
Vibe CLI,
developers.
mainly for developers. Okay, I think that's interesting. Also, I was looking at the parameters. So they have two models that they released. I think they have the small.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the Devstral Small 2 and they have the Devstral 2. So Devstral 2 is 123 billion parameters,
Right.
while Devstral Small 2 is 24 billion parameters. Again, just for our audience and those listening. So when we talk about billion parameters, what exactly do we mean by that? I just wanted you to clear the air on that. Annie, did you get that?
No, sorry, go ahead. Um,
Yeah, so I was saying that, so for our audience, in case of those who doesn't know what we mean by the billion parameters, do you mind explaining what we mean when you say, oh, this
so this
model
is,
is
yeah, so usually, I mean, I'm not an expert in this, but usually a higher number of parameters is probably a sign of that this is a bigger model, right? It's trained well, it'll perform well. I don't know what GPT 5.2 going to be. It's going to be in terms of, I don't know, 500 billion, maybe more than parameters. So that tells you the size. The bigger parameters, this is a large model because typically one parameter translates to 2 bytes. So you can do the math. So if you have 123 billion multiplied by 2 bytes, imagine the size of this model. So these are typically hyperparameters, right? So when you there was a really nice video about explanation of how LLM works. When you download a typical, it used to be, and I'm sure things have changed. When you download an LLM model, you usually get two things. One is the core sort of the code that runs the model, and a data that feeds into that model. The data is nothing but the parameter file. That's what these parameters mean. So if you potentially download Devstral 2, which you can because it's an Apache 2 open source, you will see there is a file called big params file, which is really vectors, all the numbers, which will include this 24 billion parameters. Essentially, this is your config file for the LLM that will drive the behavior of the LLM. And this
yeah.
file is produced by training the model. So the secret sauce, if somebody gets access to the 5.2 GPT 5.2's parameter file, they got the
Yeah.
model, right? They got the
You
secret.
got the model.
Yeah, OpenAI is
Yeah.
safeguardingly, securingly protecting that file because they spend millions of dollars to generate that file. That's the training.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just for knowledge sake, GPT 5.2, according to Gemini, is trained on 3 to 5 trillion parameters.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's a lot of that's a lot of I mean, when we started this podcast, we used to hear about 350K, 500K, especially most of the models from China. But now we're hearing billions, and then, I'm hearing trillions. But yeah, that's what it is.
So, I mean, Devstral Small too, just one last thing I say, it's a really good model though. I mean, I am very, very tempted to build up a sort of a dev workflow for me where I can use Vibe CLI. I guess I can connect with Claude also because a Llama CPP will be able to use this. But anyway, so I could have this model on my laptop where Vibe CLI connects to that model, everything. So I can literally have my own sort of AI assistant workflow all running locally offline mode. And I don't even have to go to internet to do this. Um,
Mm.
it's not possible. And their performance is almost, so if you're doing 72 or Devstral 2, the small is almost like 68% there, which is decent, which is
Yeah.
pretty good enough.
Yeah.
Mistral,
I
thank you
think
for
that's a
doing
very
this.
interesting
You're
one.
pushing the open source, so
Yeah.
we really appreciate you guys. I love this, guys, man.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like everyone outside America is doing open source.
Oh, I mean, in US, is lots of startups use it open source. We just don't hear
Yeah,
about it. I mean, there was
we
an
just don't
article I
hear
read
about
about
it.
Airbnb using open source models. It's all about
Oh,
economics. Yeah, I mean, not for everything, right? Going back to this idea of uh, use the right model for the right job, right? I mean, there will be certain
yeah,
aspects of the where these models are faster. I must say the
yeah.
latency of Vibe CLI was pretty amazing. I just switched to my code base and said, describe this. And within like fraction of a second, it gave me a summary. My biggest
Mm.
issue with Claude Code right now is it's really, really slow. It feels slow to me. If this continues to become an issue, I might have to switch to tools like this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sidebar. Well, over the weekend, I used anti-gravity for the first time.
Mhm.
Pretty amazing, interesting model. I was able to build a quick game in like less than 3 minutes. Yeah, I was able to build this HTML game in less than 3 minutes. And just to say that I like the fact that I can be able to be working on 5 things at the same time. I can just say if five things happening at the same time inside they have this agent something there, and it's really interesting. So yeah, just
I
to give
want
a
to.
shout out to Google.
Interesting, yeah. But anti-gravity uses sort of Gemini, right, by default.
Yeah. Use Gemini in default.
Mm-hmm. Um, so I'd like to do the next story here, which I think it's interesting because this is from Microsoft. Now,
Yeah.
this goes back to the code red thing that we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. So Microsoft is another copilot, and Microsoft is there are so many copilots out here. I sort of zone out these days. That's another thing why we had the discussion Friday in our demo call, right? Why it's important to focus on the problem. Anyway, so there's lots of copilots here. So Microsoft revealed this Azure Copilot, which is now more than a chat tool. It's sort of a multi-agent orchestration layer that allows you to kind of manage Azure activities. So it will allow you to build the operations dashboard. So kind of imagine sort of an agentic interface for your Azure dashboard. Now, at surface, this story is not. I was about to skip the story because it feels like, okay, there's another Copilot. Why wouldn't you build one? Right? It's there. Um, I'm sure AWS is also building aspects of that right now. But what's the rub here is that despite all the stake leap and news and copilots that Microsoft is releasing, apparently repo shows that their adoption is not keeping up. Um, yeah,
Wow.
the for the first time, Microsoft is quietly slashing the Copilot sales target by 50%. They really target, they're slashing because they show that agents fail 70% of the time, these copilots. And for the most companies, and if you know about enterprises, right, you literally got like a one shot at this. Obviously, employees are very skeptical about AI. Oh, AI, we talked about this, right? AI hallucinates. Why should I do this? So they started using this. I mean, even though people are saying, oh, Microsoft has a copilot, but internet, it looks like that nobody is essentially using them. Um, so, so that's sort of interesting. Even with all the hype cycle, if you really got down in the middle and go to the real adoption numbers, it's actually not there. So that's also another, I feel like could be interesting code rate for Microsoft because Microsoft copilots are also sort of sliding down on the leaderboards, isn't it? Google and Anthropics are climbing, but copilots are not there yet. So, which I thought was quite interesting.
I had my mic muted. So I was saying that I used to think that Copilot was using sort of like GPT under the hood or something.
I mean,
Yeah.
Copilots uses GPT. I think they have a this ChatGPT and Microsoft partnership is kind of weird, dude. I think they have an ownership on GPT. they have their own version of GPT maybe, or different enterprise way of they using it. I really don't know what Copilot uses behind this, and I'm going to assume GPT model family.
Hmm.
But if you are a Microsoft Azure customer, you can go to Azure and use Anthropic models. I know they had a partnership with Anthropic recently.
Oh,
But I'm not
okay.
sure, and somebody from the audience can correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm not sure whether you are allowed to switch models for your Copilot. Because the way they design these Copilots, you know how they're selling this stuff, right? Oh, you don't worry, AI will do the magic for you. Um, but anyway, yeah, the reality is they're a bit struggling with adoption. And I saw lots of funny memes about this also, right? I mean, people are buying licenses, but how many people are actually using those tools in
Using
day to day
license, yeah.
is more important. I think that's where you'll see lots of companies. So if you're an organization here who is focusing on AI adoption, I will highly encourage you not to look at how many licenses you guys bought or what's that looks like. Deep down, look at the numbers. What's the engagement looks like, because that's very important.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at my notes here. So yeah, the story I want to cover next is a story from Google, right? So I tried using this, but of course they told me it's still in. I have to join a wait list or something. I didn't have access. So, but Google Disco, they said is an experimental AI powered browser from Google Labs, right? And then is I only saw videos and then clips of how this thing works. So, of course, it uses Gemini 3. Now, it turns your tabs and search context into interactive task force mini web apps. So, the video I saw, someone was trying to plan a trip. That's what everybody does these days, trying to plan a trip, right? And then the person put a prompt and trying to plan a trip from here to here. So, this thing sort of like created like a mini web app for the trip, right? And then this person still went back to the front and said, "Oh, I want to see all the weathers while I will be there." So he created like sort of a calendar by the side and had like weather for each day shown on each particular day, and you can click and go deep in and all those things. They had like the map, Google Map showing by the side, showing you the location, movement, how to move, and all those things. And then it was pretty interesting. I think it can also sort of like control your screen, something like that. But then I just found it interesting. And they also attached it to this thing called the Gen tabs, right?
I thought the
They
Jane
also
tab
attached
was
it to,
pretty good. I got excited. I signed up for the wait list, by the way. Or maybe I did.
oh,
I got this. I don't know. I think I did. I thought that was brilliant.
yeah,
I really thought that was, and this is what the feature should be looking like. So I really
yeah,
like the Jane tab, which sort of summarizes all the tab that's opened into one tab.
yeah,
I like how simple that approach is and how quickly Google can turn into an AI browser. You don't even have to release Comet and other
yeah.
Perplexity,
They
and
didn't have to do
they
all
don't have
those
to.
things.
All I
I
have to
mean,
do is just another tab, and I'm there already.
all
It's
these
crazy.
all these guys are built on top of Chromium engine. I mean, they have the someone was saying this that I mean, he was trying to make an argument that Google is going to win eventually, and that Google is going to become the greatest company in the world. And then he said something that because Google was for years heavily invested on research. So for years, what they were simply doing was researching different things, and that has helped them to build a lot of foundational tools that a lot of things are now built on top of it. So
Mhm.
if they didn't have to release a browser, they just have to like add it into what they. I mean, look at Google Workspace. They will
It's
have
funny. It's really nice that you mentioned that. Sometimes the progress looks like this, though, right? It feels like we slowed down. They slowed down. They're not doing
yeah,
anything, but this thing's compounds. They're
yeah, it
building the
compounds.
fundamentals. Now they're in a position where they can take that interesting thing, that interest, combine, another tool comes out really quick, and they're
Yeah,
pushing bound. It's crazy. It's wild. I mean,
yeah.
it's fast. I really like that concept.
I mean,
Because I'm looking at like 30 tabs right now, and it will
yeah,
be. And I think it's very interesting too, because when you're doing research, you might be opening multiple tabs. Now imagine this Jane generative tab sort of combines all this news information into one cohesive story where all your research is almost like mind map, right? So essentially it takes all
Yeah,
this idea and combines them together in interesting way.
yeah, yeah,
That's super cool. This is what
yeah.
AI is supposed
Super
to
cool.
do. This is what AI is designed for. I like this stuff.
I
This is
mean,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. And Google has a lot of it. I mean, Notebook LM is amazing. I went
Amazing.
to use
Yeah.
it over the weekend and I saw that it can now generate like a video summary of more my documents. So I just load on my schoolwork and then it generates a video for me, 7 minutes, 10 minutes video. I just watch it and I get the concept of the whole course. I don't need to read it. I mean, it's interesting. And these tools are important. Those are kind of what excites me because they solve my problems, right? Not
Yeah.
some,
You sound like a Google fanboy, man.
I mean, these days I am.
Yeah, we are turning into Google fanboys. Okay, I do have another Google story. Sorry, guys. I mean, they're doing so much interesting stuff. Although I have a couple of Google
Yeah,
stories that's mind blowing. So yesterday, funny, I was in a lunch with my friends, and we were talking about AI, and they're also engineers. Okay, and
yeah,
we're talking about, hey, what's the future it's going to look like? And there's obviously a little bit of so what's kids going to be studying? What's school going to be looking like? What should we focus on? And I remember saying that AI is really good at, and this is my best on my personal experience. AI is really good at generating code, but I will not necessarily say those are like a scalable performance-tuned code. Back in days, I used to work for when I was with Scala. I used to my focus was building scalable solutions. Imagine building something that will be used by millions of users. When you have to start thinking about millions of users using a software, you have to think very differently, like how efficient the code is and all that stuff, right? And I always feel like that AI is not really good at it. Will solve your problem, but that might not be a very efficient solution. So it turns out Google is working on something like this. It's called AlphaEvolve. It's an evolutionary code agent. So so let's start with the problem statement, right? I gave you a problem, which is like, hey, I want to build a software which will be used by millions of users concurrently. So it has to scale. So typically when you write software like this, you first make it work. Then you look into saying how I can optimize it. Can I reduce the memory usage? Can I make this function more efficient? Maybe reduce number of calls and all that stuff. So what AlphaEvolve does is now is that you give AlphaEvolve a problem spec, right? Hey, here is a function I would really want to optimize, and you give a test case. Like it's taking, let's say, 500 milliseconds. I want to reduce it to 200 milliseconds. Let's say give some target, and you have that implementation. What it'll do is it's also almost like an evolutionary software design. It's going to continue to make changes to your algorithm, your function, your implementation, and run the test to see it can optimize. Okay. Once it figures an optimization, it will switch that as a base model and continue to evolve. Okay, till it finds that optimum solution for your optimal implementation for your problem. Um, so this is fundamentally a paradigm shift, right? We are not talking about now AI generating code. We are talking about AI. Hey, AI, can you look into this code and make it better for me? Make it more efficient. Let's take another example. The use cases of this is really, really great. Right? So many use cases. Like one of the big thing for large organization is cloud cost, right? I mean, at the surface, feels like using
yeah,
cloud is not cheaper, it's really expensive. So you got to have a bunch of services and
yeah,
stuff running. So imagine using AlphaGo like this. Hey, we are spending um, and it's going to be more details like that. Hey, our AWS bill is $10,000. We're going to reduce to 8,000. Here is a set of
yeah,
algorithms codes running. See if we can optimize this. And you could figure out saying in terms of saying, hey, maybe you're making unnecessary S3 call or DynamoDB call. Reduce this to that. This is like a whole level of efficiency and refactoring. Um,
yeah.
it's just an agent that's powered by Gemini. So they released something called AlphaEvolve.
That's interesting. I mean, it's not just interesting, it's important. It's an important so this is going to solve an important problem because everybody
Right.
has sort of been saying, oh, AI is not going to build, you know, platforms that billions of people are going to use and all those things. And then and I also sort of like how some of the big companies are investing in some of these things. Like the other day, we saw how AWS in investing in deployment. They're trying to build a solution around deployment, and they're launching some things around that,
Yeah.
so that when you vibe code, you moving from thinking of the idea and then
I mean,
deploying the idea
I
becomes quite easy.
exactly. Even take an example of finance, right? I mean, if you're
Yeah,
in Wall Street, the efficient algorithm still use lots of companies use OCaml or C++. I mean, the goal is
yeah,
to how quickly we can go from A to B, because
yeah,
losing fraction of seconds in algorithmic coding is like you losing millions of dollars. So great code means savings, and they're directly targeting that. I mean, you're right. I mean, this is a very important problem to solve, and AI is kind of getting
yeah.
there.
That's in there. Yeah. All right. So, do I have any other story? So yeah, Queen Alibaba, the guys from Asia launched Queen model. So,
Mhm.
so this model is, I'm trying to pull it up because I don't have the details on my notes. Sort of. All right. So, I saw their tweets while we were on this call. So they launched this Queen model. Um, yeah. So they launched this model and they said it is an massive upgrade, obviously, from their previous one. And they now have like enhanced multi-tone video, audio understanding, conversation flow naturally. So I think their model, not that I think I saw a video somewhere where their model was able to generate like video and audio at the same time. Most of these models were unable to generate like video, audio.
Mm.
I mean, we have some of the clips that we use for Tublian where we have the audio and the video. It was a mess. It was a mess, and that was Google Gemini 3, right?
Mhm.
So, but then this screen model, they say they have like naturally flowing video audio understanding, right? And then they have you can customize this AI to your own personality. You can tell it that I am this and you are this. So when I talk to you like this, you're my reverend father or you're my doctor. So when I say this, you should say this back to me, something like that. And then of course it has like smarter language handling, rock solid support, and it
This
understands
is open source, right?
119.
These are all open source
Yeah,
models.
this is all open source. Yeah,
Mm.
this is all open source. And then the other last story I want to talk about is, this was just posted about 30 minutes ago. That's about when we started this podcast. So Manus 1.6 is now live, and they just said we have upgraded our core agent architecture for more complex work with less supervision. So I don't know the details again. This thing just launched like 30 minutes ago, but yeah, just so you guys know, maybe next week we'll give you the details.
Share the link, man. There are lots of users who use Manus now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, lots of people use Manus now.
All right, I have tons of stories. I'm trying to skip through what I can want to talk about. Um, but there is this one story that I really wanted to sort of share, and we'll see if we have time to cover other stuff. This is also from Google, but this is not from the research side. Um, so what's the biggest pressing issue right now in using AI, right? One of the biggest pressing issue for anywhere essentially, that this whole context engineering, right?
Yeah,
How to sort of fit in the information you want or need to make
yeah,
sure LLM sort of remembers that so that you can get a high quality results. And
yeah,
one of the reasons for doing this is obviously LLMs are stateless, right? Between the sessions, it will not remember.
yeah,
It will not remember all the things that all the wonderful thing you taught the LLM to do, not to do. It will completely forget next time you use it. So we try to feed that using context, Claude, empty file, agents.md, what have you. I mean, all that. So Google is working on. They released two research papers. It's called Titans and Mira. These two papers are sort of directly sort of stepping back and rethinking how AI agents handle memory. So imagine, what if we give LLMs a long-term memory? Because right now it's a short-term memory.
mm,
During the session, it sort of remembers because of going the back and forth, and it forgets. What if it has a long-term memory? That means as you work with this, it sort of remembers all your things and adapt to your change. So it also almost like happens fine tuning in real time.
Yeah.
So this essentially the way we the traditional LLMs like GPT and most RAG-based systems forget everything between sessions, right? RAG is also same thing. What we do is that we use RAG. I'm just providing a little bit of context and explanation so that people understand why this is amazing, this research. So the other approach people use, and we talked about RAG lots of time on our podcast. RAG is another way we sort of manage that context engineering. There could be tons of documentations, documents in your code base or for your app. You use RAG to fetch relevant information from that set and feed it into the LLM. Okay. So all of this has one limitation. That is all. These are all short-term memory. None of this persists across sessions. You still have to. RAG also doesn't remember. You can do re-ranking everything. It's still one shot. It doesn't have a long term. So what Titans are doing is essentially taking this further by integrating tool usage and memory updates in the model itself. So imagine now model itself has a memory compartment, and it remembers all the past, all the things. Not only that, it sort of updates the memory saying, okay, looks like what I was doing wrong. Next time onwards, I will not do that anymore. And it will remember that. Like it's like AGI too. I mean, this is super cool.
Yeah.
So the memory, for an example, in RAG and re-ranking is still stateless. You do all the stuff, you still have to do one shot. On Mira and Titan-based models that hopefully we'll see in the future, we'll have a persistent trainable, which I thought was really, really good. You're just not going to remember. It's going to update the memory based on what worked, what didn't work. It's almost like learning like us.
Oh.
Yeah, so Titans and Mira, these two specifications of research paper, essentially is going to outperform RAG because they go beyond this one-off retrieval, right? They're building memory. So it's almost like us, right? We were learning from our mistakes and we figure out we will not do that anymore. So
Yeah.
I'll highly encourage you guys to sort of check this out. I mean, this is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Okay, drop the link on the.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
That's it, guys.
Right.
I
have
have. I
any
mean,
other story?
I have a lot of stories, but I don't think those are interesting
I
enough.
mean,
Maybe we should talk about
yeah,
another Google one because we haven't talked about Google enough today, which is Google rolled out full support for MCP. I know this made a lot of news lately. So Google now has a full support for MCP for their cloud services. So you can turn Gemini
Oh,
agent to sort of talk to Google Maps, BigQuery, all the sort of Google services are now wrapped into MCP.
yeah. Talking about Google, I don't have this, but I know I read it somewhere over the weekend that there's now Google MCP or Google AI tool that now helps you debug AI on the browser. So you know how we have debugging on Chrome,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So then I have something that can understand and help you debug like AI issues on Chrome. I mean, something that is very important for developers, right? So
Oh, in the console, in the Google
in the
console.
console, yeah, in the console, in the
Mm-hmm.
Google console.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so guys, check it out. All right, so I believe that is the end of today's episode, guys. Yeah, the last week's episode is interesting. That's why I'm talking about it for the second time, right? So make sure you go back, watch last week's episode, and then we have about 17 people watching right now on Twitter. We want to say thank you very much for watching. About those watching on LinkedIn, thank you. If you're watching this for the second time, we want to say big thank you for making out time to join us on this podcast. And then yeah, you can always write to us, send us a tweet, send us a DM. We are going to read it. And then if you want to be a guest on the podcast, you can send us a message.
There's
All
one
right.
thing I was
Yes.
thinking, Precious, for the links that we shared, it only goes on YouTube, right? Is there a way to sort of capture and put it as a tweet on Twitter?
The
Some
link to the Twitter, to the YouTube video.
No, the links that we keep dropping here, right, for all the stories that we covered.
Oh, yeah. So we may have to copy it from here and then post on Twitter.
Yeah, so maybe we figure out a way to kind of aggregate all the links and share it with everyone.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah,
some
I
of them
think I
might be
saw
interested.
what you did like 2 or 3 weeks ago on LinkedIn, which
Yeah,
was very interesting.
yeah, something like
Yeah,
that maybe. Okay, yeah,
something like that. So, okay, yeah.
okay. All right,
All
cool.
right. So, yeah, thank you everyone for joining. See you in